Have you ever lived inside a conversation that never actually happened? You're lying in bed or standing in the shower or just staring out the window, and suddenly you're not here anymore. You say all the perfect lines, you win old arguments, you become the version of yourself you've always wanted to be. And for a few seconds, it feels so real that you forget the present. Then you come back with a very strange feeling. Satisfied, but also empty. You start wondering, why do I keep imagining moments that aren't real? If you think it's because you're bored or something is wrong with you, you're mistaken. These scenarios are not random or weak. In fact, behind them is a quiet strategy of the brain. A sophisticated mechanism it has carefully built to help you deal with the world in a way you've never noticed. In today's video, we're going to break down the psychology behind this phenomenon, and more importantly, how to step out of these illusions and actually live in the present. First, we need to clear up a common misconception. You are not just daydreaming. Daydreaming sounds like random thoughts drifting around in your head with no direction. But what you're doing is much more complex than that. From a neuroscience perspective, you're building an entire parallel reality in your mind. And you're not just a viewer. You're the director, the writer, the lighting, the sound, and the lead actor all at once. Your brain fills it with incredibly detailed elements. You imagine the other person's tone of voice. You see their facial expression when you finally say the perfect line you missed before. Or you create a flawless romantic moment with someone you've barely even spoken to in real life. So why does your brain spend so much energy, real calories, running a movie that isn't real? The answer is, your brain is trying to solve a problem it couldn't solve in the real world. Real life has one very frustrating rule. It moves too fast, and it never gives us a chance to do a second draft. Someone insults you. And 3 hours later, while you're washing dishes, you finally think of the perfect comeback. Too late. But your brain doesn't accept that unfinished feeling. It hates open loops, so it turns on the projector. It takes you back to that moment, but this time it gives you power, intelligence, and total confidence. Listen carefully. You are not broken. You are not wasting your life. Your brain is doing exactly what millions of years of evolution have trained it to do. It's creating a safe laboratory where you can simulate life's variables, helping you regain balance after social interactions that made you feel small. To understand more deeply why these scenarios show up automatically, even when you're not trying, we need to talk about the default mode network, DMN, in the brain. I like to call it the mind's background app. Think of it this way. When you're focused on solving a math problem, writing a report, or crossing the street, the DMN quiets down to make room for your attention. But the moment you relax, when you close your laptop, rest your eyes on the bus, or stand under a warm shower, the DMN immediately turns back on. For some people, especially those who are highly imaginative, sensitive, or perfectionistic, this network runs at full power. It never wants to sit still. It craves input. It quickly gathers fragments of past memories, mixes them with hidden desires in the present, and shapes them into a psychological process called counterfactual thinking. Your brain runs these alternate realities, not to torture you or pull you away from real life. Its purpose is to learn, to test different paths of a situation, to extract lessons for the future, or to soothe a lingering emotional wound that no one ever bandaged in real life. This is a very sophisticated self-healing and self-upgrading mechanism of the nervous system. But there's something important many people misunderstand. Not everyone who imagines these scenarios is suffering or lacking something. Some people do it simply to explore different versions of themselves. They imagine who they would be if they were more confident, if they spoke their truth, if they lived more authentically. For them, these scenarios are not an escape, but a space for exploration, for expansion. The problem only begins when you forget that it's just a simulation and start living inside it instead. And if you pay close attention to the scenarios your mind creates, you'll notice something very strange. Your brain is a prediction machine. Its main job is to constantly answer one question. What's going to happen next? And what do I need to do to survive or win? When you imagine these scenarios, you're actually rehearsing. You picture a difficult conversation with your family. You repeat in your head how you'll ask your boss for a raise. You imagine yourself shining on a first date. This kind of practice run helps you build confidence and form familiar neural pathways. So when the real moment comes, you don't freeze from surprise. But this is exactly where the trouble begins. For the human mind, the line between preparation and substitution is incredibly thin. Sometimes you rehearse a conversation so many times, you've already said everything you wanted to say. You've heard the perfect responses all inside your head. And when you step into real life, you lose all motivation to actually speak. In your mind, it already feels done. You imagine a highly successful version of yourself so vividly that sitting down to write each line of code or each page in real life feels exhausting and far less appealing. The simulated future, something that was supposed to push you forward, now becomes a soft glass cage that keeps you stuck. To understand why it's so hard to let go of these imagined scenarios, we need to talk about one of the strongest human desires. Deep beneath every dream, every argument in your mind, there is only one word: control. The real world out there is chaotic. You can't control what other people think about you. You can't make someone stop being careless. You can't force the world to recognize your talent right away. You can't rewind time to take back something you said. Reality is full of uncertainty, clashing egos, and painful rejection. But inside your mind, it's different. In the kingdom of imagined scenarios, you are the absolute ruler. You hold the script. You decide the lighting, the camera angle, and how the story ends. There, you always say the perfect line. There, the person who hurt you finally breaks down in regret. There, you are deeply understood. There, you win. Your brain craves that feeling of victory and safety more than anything, especially if in the past you've gone through long periods of feeling small, powerless, unheard, or unprotected. These imagined scenarios become the softest place to soothe that pain. They give you a sense of worth that the real world hasn't given you yet. There is nothing pathological or shameful about this. It's simply the human desire for happiness. But we need to talk about the heavy price you're paying. When you invest too much time and emotion into these virtual realities, a dangerous psychological effect begins to happen. The boundary between real and imagined starts to blur. The human brain isn't very good at telling the difference between emotions created by real experiences and those created by imagination. And because of that, confusion begins. You might wake up feeling angry and resentful towards your partner just because in your mind last night, their imagined version did something hurtful. The real person is sitting right in front of you at breakfast, completely innocent. But you end up punishing them for something a ghost in your mind did. Or the opposite happens. You build a perfect image of someone you like, creating romantic scenarios in your head. Then when you meet them in real life, they act a little distant, and suddenly your world collapses. You feel deeply disappointed because reality refuses to follow the script you worked so hard to write. At this point, you might be asking a very simple question. If your mind keeps running these movies, how do you get out of them? The first thing you need to remember is this. Never try to force yourself to stop thinking. The more you tell yourself, don't think about it, the more your brain will lock onto it. Don't fight it. The only way to free yourself is to work with this mechanism. Understand what these scenarios are actually trying to give you, and then learn how to take control of the wheel. Here's a 4-step path to help you reclaim the present. First, bring the scenario out of your head. When you catch yourself getting lost in a big success story or a perfectly scripted conversation, pause and write it down. Don't let it keep spinning in the dark inside your mind. Give it shape with words. Your brain creates these scenarios because it's trying to process a desire or an emotion that hasn't been named yet. So let it process. Give it a real outlet on paper. This is called expressive writing in psychology. It works because it completes the loop your brain is stuck in. Once that perfect scenario is written down, Your mind gets the signal that the information has been stored and it can stop replaying it. You'll feel yourself coming back down to reality more gently. Second, ask yourself, is this scenario preparing me or protecting me? Once it's on paper, look at it directly and ask a turning point question. Is this scenario preparing me or protecting me? In other words, helping me avoid something. These two may look similar, but they lead to completely different lives. Preparation is when you're rehearsing for an action you will actually take soon. You imagine how to say no to an unreasonable request, and the next day you go and say it. The scenario becomes a launchpad. It supports your courage. Protection is different. Protection is when you use the scenario as a hiding place. You imagine winning an argument, but in real life, you stay silent and endure it. You imagine confessing your feelings, but you never send the message. You're using imagination to consume the emotions that should happen in real life just to avoid the risk of getting hurt. Be honest with yourself. Learn to recognize which type of scenario you're running. If it's preparation, take that confidence and act on it immediately in real life. If it's avoidance, take a deep breath and admit, I am hiding. I'm comforting myself with an illusion. Just becoming aware of this is already the first step to breaking out of the prison of your mind. Third, set a time limit. You don't need to become a strict monk and wipe out all imagination. As we said, the ability to simulate is a gift of evolution. You're allowed to enjoy it. But with one condition, you must set boundaries. Create a rule. The theater has closing hours. When a scenario shows up, instead of blocking it, allow it. Set a timer for exactly 10 minutes. During those 10 minutes, you can be the greatest director. You can imagine yourself as the center of the universe. Say everything, harsh or romantic. Fully dive into it. But wallahi, the moment the alarm goes off, the show is over. Lights off. Audience out. You stand up, stretch, and go back to your real tasks. This trains your brain with a strong discipline. These imagined scenarios are just tools to release stress, a place for mental entertainment, not a place to live. You can visit, but you don't get to move in. Fourth, return to the present the moment you notice you've drifted too far. There will be days when your DMN is so active that it pulls you away like a flood. You realize you've been sitting on the couch for 30 minutes, heart racing, emotions rising over a story that isn't even real. When you notice you've gone too far, how do you land safely? The answer is in your body. The mind has no weight. It can travel across time and space, but your body has weight, and it's locked into one place, the present moment. To shut down the scenario, shift your energy to the sensory cortex. Don't use thoughts to fight thoughts. Use your body, right away. Feel the weight of your feet on the floor. Can you sense the coolness of the tiles? Notice your breathing, your chest rising and falling. Look at a specific object in front of you. A cup, a plant, a corner of the table, and describe its shape and color. Touch a rough surface, or take a sip of cold water and feel it move down your throat. These small physical actions send a strong signal to your brain. They tell your nervous system, look, there's no argument, there's no drama. This is reality. This moment. This room. This body. By anchoring yourself in your senses, you automatically cut off the illusion machine. In the end, remember this mental model. Your mind is like a river. These imagined scenarios, these wandering thoughts, are the water flowing through it. Sometimes the current is calm when you imagine pleasant things. Sometimes it rushes violently when you replay pain. You can never stop the river. Don't waste your energy trying to build a dam. Instead, you can choose not to jump in and get swept away. You can step onto the shore, sit on the grass of awareness, quietly watch the river flow, acknowledge that it's there, and then stand up, turn your back, and go live your real life. The appearance of these scenarios is not the problem. The problem only begins when you forget one thing. They are not the destination. we've reached the end of today's journey. I know you've spent many hours of your life taking refuge inside those imagined scenarios, and I have to admit, some of them are truly beautiful. They sparkle. They feel safe. They heal. Maybe during some of your darkest times, those mental movies were the only thing that gave you comfort and warmth when the real world felt too cold to offer it. Your imagination may have been the softest blanket you had. But listen, you don't have to live there anymore. It's time to return those scenarios to where they truly belong. They are just drafts. They are rehearsal rooms. They can never and should never replace your real life. Your real life is waiting right outside that door. Yes, it's messy. There's no script. It's full of uncertainty, complicated people, and risks that make your heart race. But real life has the touch of skin, real tears, tight, breathtaking hugs, hard-earned victories. It's the only thing that can truly fill you. And maybe just that realness, even if it's imperfect, is already more than enough. It's time to step out of the theater and start filming your real life. If you saw yourself in this video, leave me a comment. What's the imagined scenario you replay the most in your mind? You might realize you're not alone on this journey. I'm Apex. Thank you for being here in this present moment. Don't forget to subscribe so we can keep exploring the deeper layers of the mind together in future videos. Goodbye, and see you next time.